would you say is the largest challenge, and how are you prepared to resolve this challenge?
Well, obviously this year the largest challenge is elections. I am happy to say that I have trained over 200 election inspectors for this upcoming election year. In addition to that, Gladwin County was the first county into the printer for our ballots to meet the 45-day deadline for overseas and military ballots, which is a huge part of our voting population here in Gladwin County, believe it or not. So that is the biggest obstacle this year. In off-election years, it is just, I don't feel as though my staff has many obstacles because we are a very well-oiled machine. We handle several different issues all at the same time. I have 6 people in the office, including myself, and there are some days that there might be one person at the window assisting you because we are in 3 different courtrooms. You may be in a board meeting. We are all over the place, serving the citizens and working every aspect of that office. So, major undertaking this year is elections. Other than that, we got it under.
If you'll switch the duties of the county clerk, what would you say is the largest challenge, and how are you prepared to resolve this challenge?
Obviously, not being in the office, that's going to be a little difficult question for me to answer. I can, however, tell you that I am very proficient at multitasking. Like I told you earlier, I've managed 5 different corporations all at once. That also takes you in a lot of different directions with a lot of people that need to be supervised and that are reporting back to me. To make a business successful, you have to be able to do that. I have 28 years experience in doing that. I don't believe that it would be a difficult position for me to take over. Obviously, there would be things I'd have to learn. I've been in contact with other county clerks in the area to help me should I need it, and I'm sure other courses and things that I can take to do that. But as far as the multitasking and managing the office, I have 28 years of experience behind me doing that. So I don't believe that would be an issue for me. Thank you.
Another question. We're going to try to lump a couple of questions together here, if we may. And it is to describe the county clerk's responsibility to the circuit court through your eyes. And what would you do to allow the electorate to see real-time online election results in Gladwin County?
Part of that, last part of that question is technology. And using the technology and social media that we have available to us would be the best way, I believe, to get real-time information out. The internet has been a wonderful thing, obviously. I remember when there wasn't an internet, and you had to actually use an encyclopedia to look up information. Still have a set of encyclopedias, actually, and sometimes you reference back to that. Some of the information is outdated, but you can get some good information from there. But as far as that goes, that would be the best way to do that, I believe. And as far as the court, it would be just record keeping, making sure that you kept accurate records, accurate meeting minutes for what they needed, and organized office.
So the same two questions. If you could, please, what would you do to allow the electorate to see real-time online election results in Gladwin County? And if you could also describe the county clerk's responsibility to the circuit court.
First of all, the county clerk's responsibility to the circuit court is more than record keeping. In my office, you must be not only certified as an accredited electronic recorder through the state of Michigan, which involves a testing and recertification each and every year. You also have to be accepted by the circuit judge or the chief judge in order to perform those duties. I have 4 individuals in my office, including myself, that have been certified to take on those tasks. We handle all recording via video and logging on a computer system. Those logs are kept and retained and under a retention schedule. And then there are filings that come in over the counter each and every day from 3 different courts. We handle the drug court proceedings. We handle all family court matters for the probate court. And then obviously circuit court matters that involve any felonies or civil matters over $25,000. So we do handle those very quickly and efficiently. I have 2 people in my office that are primarily court individuals that also handle the recordings. As far as the electronic availability of election results, we are getting there. One of my projects this year was to scan back to 1982, all the election results. If you go to my homepage at gladwinco.com or gladwincounty.mi.gov, all the election results are there and available for you to view. It is coming real time. It is going to happen, and those are available nightly. If you stop into the office on election night, they're readily available, and they go up immediately the same night. So I think we have a pretty good control on both of those issues. Thank you.
We'll give an opportunity for a 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Beaverton, Michigan, have been a lifelong resident of Gladwin County. I'm happy tonight to have the support of my family, my staff, and several community members that are here to assure me in my journey to re-election. I'm the daughter of David Petty Grant, who are also lifelong residents of the county. I already talked to you about a lot of my work qualifications. I want to talk to you a little bit about what I've done in the community. In 2014, I was named Volunteer of the Year, and through this honor, I consider myself to be a community leader. And learning and growing with the youth of this community to better our community, keep pushing the youth, because they will follow behind you. They will lead by example, and that's what I'm here to do. And I look forward to your continued support come November 8th, and all your past support I really do appreciate. Thank you very much.
Peggy, you also have a 1-minute closing statement.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for giving us this opportunity to come and present ourselves. My parents were born here in Gladwin back in the 1920s. They moved downstate before I was born. I'm the only one in my family who wasn't born here. But just because I wasn't born living here doesn't mean I wasn't raised here. I spent all of my summers and every weekend here. I remember back when Odell's was an ice cream store before it was even a restaurant. So I spent a lot of time here. But I also have experience outside of the county. I had a button that I carried that said, "I love Gladwin County." And I was always amazed at the amount of people that would stop me and say, "Gladwin County, I know that place, I go there." And I was proud to say I was from there. So I'm also very proud to have the opportunity to bring the information I have through my experiences downstate to bring a fresh perspective and a new voice to Gladwin County. Thank you.
Top priority is probably maintaining the records in the office. We have records that date back to the early 1800s, and we have to maintain those. One of my previous jobs was updated those, put those on the electronics, so we have them. When you open the file drawer and pull out a drawing from the 1860s or 1870s, you see little pieces break off from it. You think you ought to be handling with white gloves, so put those all on this, and now we can look them up there and don't have to open it so much, expose it to so much jamming. The second most important thing to me is to clean drains. We have, my buddy had asked me one time why I was foolish enough to take this. I'd retired from Dow Chemical Company after 29 years, and I said, when you have 34 or 36-inch trees growing in the bottom of the drains, it's time somebody cleaned them. And since then, I have to revise that there's a 48-inch tree in the bottom of the drain, but it's a willow tree, so it moves a little faster. You said 3? Yeah. I also serve on 4 lake boards, lake improvement boards, and responsible for maintaining lake levels on all 4 of those. Okay, I'm getting my signs.
Okay, If you'll switch positions at this moment. We'll ask you, Ryan, the same question. If you were elected, what are your top 3 priorities to be addressed as drain commissioner?
Well, first thing I would like to address is communication with the public, and I'd like to do so by, putting weekly, if not monthly, statements in the paper and on a website, so that all the population in Gladwin County knows what's going on at every individual time. Second thing I'd like to do is I'd like to actually put in place a drain maintenance program. So as we go on, we can maintain our drains and not have to do big digs all the time and do all this stuff. We can just, kind of like a car. Anyone who owns a car knows you have to have preventative maintenance, right? You do certain things, runs longer for you, problem free. That's what I plan on doing on that portion of things. The third thing is just getting everything organized, and so that when somebody does come to me with a question, I can go ahead and fire out an answer to them because I'm ready to do so. I think organization, running my own business, I know that that's huge for me. I have a customer call me, I got things here and things here, I know where everything's at, I can go over there and I can, if I don't know the answer, I can research it and get it to them as soon as possible.
If you'll just stay So the final question is, what communication methods will you implement to inform property owners of upcoming drain work on their property?
Well, I'd like to, obviously, we have some of our older residents that are not technology savvy, and there's still quite a few of them out there, believe it or not. And so I would definitely still imply letters to the county record, but I'd also like to maybe even start a Facebook page. There's all these different kinds of communicators out there that we can just hit a button and boom, people just know what's going on. So that's what I would like to do, is like to get the technology involved with what we're doing and move forward from there.
Right, thank you. About the same question, what communication methods will you implement to inform property owners of upcoming drain work on their property?
First of all, we notify, other than one drain where we had to move on to it quickly because we got held up on the drain we were working on. But we went through and notified them individually, but before we work on any drain, we send out a letter to everybody in the drainage district notifying them we're going to work on their drain. And what was it? That was the first part of, that was the only part of the question?
Yeah, what communication methods would you use to implement and inform property owners about upcoming drain work?
Okay, that's what we do, is notify them before we work on them. Everybody gets a written letter, so I'm sure the office.
And is that, the final portion is a 1-minute closing statement, and we will begin with you, Bob.
Oh, okay. I think being a drain commissioner is a very important job. It has a lot of responsibility and a lot of authority. And when we took over, when I took over 6 years ago, we had a very limited fund to work with. It was $45,000, and that kind of limited the amount of work we could do. And so you have to notify the townships at the same time you're notifying everybody that you're working into. The townships have a portion of the costs involved, along with the road commission and state highway department and so on. So you need to keep everybody informed, but we've since then. There's no money in the drain fund. I don't know how many people realize that, but everybody, they do.
And Ryan, a 1-minute closing statement.
Okay. I see a lot of familiar faces in here, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of tell you a little bit about myself anyway. I'm a lifelong resident of Glavine County. I've been married to my wife Katie now for 12 years. I have 3 wonderful kids, Bailey, Hunter, and Grace, and we are very active within the community as a family. I've been coaching hockey for over a decade now. I also sit on the Glavine Area Hockey Association board. All 3 of my kids play hockey. All 3 of my kids play ball. I like to get involved with that when I can. I just love Glavine County. I love the residents of it. I've never had any intuition to even leave this county. I love it here and I plan on staying here the rest of my life. Thank you for your time tonight, and looking forward to your support in November. Thank you.
Jobs and economic growth, fiscal responsibility, tax relief for hardworking taxpayers that spurs investment in America, a healthcare system that puts patients first, and national security policies where we win and the terrorists lose. Like you, I understand we cannot fix our country until Washington recognizes the best ideas do not come from the Beltway, but right here from voters in the 4th District and places like it throughout the country. We are living through the slowest economic recovery in history. That is why I successfully fought against Washington bureaucrats to save hundreds of manufacturing jobs right here in Michigan's 4th District. Many Americans have flat paychecks and rising costs. They should not have to worry about their job being cut because there is too much government overreach coming out of Washington. I am running for re-election to fight for you and to hold government accountable to the people. In Congress, I have voted for legislation that cuts taxes and regulation, voted for legislation that gives our troops the resources they need to win on the battlefield, and I've held the federal government accountable by voting for legislation that makes it easier to fire bureaucrats at the VA who have caused our veterans to suffer. We live in the best country in the world, and I'm honored that you elected me to work for you. I ask you to do so again this year, and I need your help. You can fill out a volunteer card or take a yard sign home today. Together we can win in November and put our country back on the right track. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Inch diameter Line 5 pipelines owned by Canadian company Enbridge Incorporated lie exposed in the water at the bottom of the Straits of Mackinac. 20% of the world's fresh surface water is in the Great Lakes. What is your position on this aging infrastructure? What would you do about it, and explain why you feel this way?
Okay, so the aging pipeline that's there is obviously, it's old, and something needs to be done about it. We need to either replace it, figure out how long of life expectancy it actually has left, if any. But you know, when I'm out knocking on doors and I'm listening to you all, and one of the big things that comes up is not necessarily the pipeline. It's jobs and the economy, and it's education. And how are we going to give our kids a world-class education? It's reducing our regulations as farmers and small businesses. It's things like that. It's a great question. I'd love to dig into more of that and figure out both sides of that. That's kind of the approach I'll take as your legislator, as someone that can look at each side, come up with a balanced solution, bring that to you, and work back and forth with you guys. So I'm not 100% knowledgeable on that pipeline and what I would actually do to fix it, but I know that I will get there, especially for like me in November. So I really do appreciate it.
It's the same question for you, Dr. Townsend. Would you like me to repeat the entire question for you?
No, I already know it. I listened the first time.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to stump on anything else. The question's about the line number 5 pipeline that goes to the Straits of Mackinac. There are 2 pipelines that go through that are a year young. They're actually older than I am. So obviously they're not in great shape anymore. I read the 60-page report put out by the state of Michigan on this pipeline because I was asked a question. I didn't know, and the engineer in me said, let's go find out what's going on. There are 2 pipelines that come across. Now, looking at the way the pipelines are actually run, they go over by Duluth, Minnesota, they come down through Chicago and up into lower Michigan there, and then they have another loop that goes through the UP and crosses the Straits of Mackinac. That is a lousy place for a pipeline. That can be an absolute disaster if it breaks, and having grown up in the Kalamazoo area, I saw what happens when a pipeline breaks down there. So, what do you do about it? Obviously, one solution would be to cap the pipeline off on either end of the strait and just bring it in around underneath. There's no reason that we have to bring the pipeline across the Straits of Mackinac. If we do decide to bring the pipeline across the Straits of Mackinac, it should be replaced, and it should be in a double-walled vessel. Run the pipeline through a conduit so that we can contain a spill if there is one. So, there's your answer.
If you'll remain. School districts and cities are in poor financial condition or close to funding levels that would mandate state intervention. Do you agree with the laws that allow for state takeover? And do you think the funding levels are adequate for those entities? What should the funding level be?
Okay, well, the answer is no and no, and as much as they need. The reason that schools are having problems right now is that they simply don't have the tax base and the funds in order to do their basic services. A study by Michigan State, which I also read, indicated that over 80% of a school district's financial obligations are not under the control of the school district. The entire emergency management law is based on the fact that school administrators are incompetent and they can't manage their money. That's not the case. The problem that we're having is that the state has consistently cut funding per student. And the other problem that nobody wants to talk about is the fact that charter schools are siphoning off millions of dollars that are needed to do basic services in schools. Public education money should be spent on public education. I don't believe that people should be able to take their tax dollars and go to a private school and leave the kids that don't get into the private school or don't wish to go to the private school floundering for air. Teachers are having to ration copy paper. All right? They have to ration copy paper. That's the main problem with Common Core education is parents don't know what's going on because the teachers can't even send a sheet home explaining what a number line is or what the assignment is. And that's ridiculous. If we adequately fund teachers, we'll have less turnover. We'll give them the tools they need to educate our children, which is the most important thing that we can do. And I've got a caution here. If you have any further questions, just ask me later.
Jason, would you like me to repeat the question for you?
Thank you, though. So, for me, when we talk about education, it's about the kids. How are we going to provide the world-class education for our children? And the thing that comes to mind is when I sat down with two superintendents in our area, and they say that both of their schools are on the federal free lunch program. So the socioeconomic status of majority of the kids in that school are from low-income families that can't afford school lunches. So everybody in those two school districts get free lunch. That's a problem. We have to fix that home situation before they can start receiving a world-class education, because a lot of it starts at home. So I think that's where I would focus more of my time and energy would be, let's get into those schools. Let's figure out what those superintendents and those school boards need to provide some resources for those kids who may be in a struggling, situation at home where they're not being provided with the proper, interaction with the parents. So that's where I would take that. As far as funding goes, we do got to figure out this per pupil funding issue that we have right now. A kid in Midland and a kid in Clare should be worth the same amount of money. We shouldn't be holding dollars over kids' heads and have to worry about the influx and outflux of students that are coming in the district and leaving the district. We can't manage that money properly because we don't know how many kids are going to show up next year. So, and I think part of that would improve with the socioeconomic involvement. The superintendents, social workers can be more involved. They can really give the local school board and the local superintendents some more control and let them manage their money.
Picking up on a little bit of what you just said, Clare and Gladwin counties have some of the highest poverty rates in the entire state of Michigan. What specific actions would you like to see introduced to reduce poverty and some of the social problems that often arise?
That's a good question. To me, the best anti-poverty program is a job, right? We need to create jobs. We need people to work. Right now, I know an employer in my area, Clare, that can't hire people fast enough. People are coming to these interviews without the necessary skills to be hired. And he's asking me, what are you going to do? How are we going to get these people trained so that they can fill these positions? And it's right there in front of us. The CTE, Joel Johnson, our current state rep, has done a great job with advancing our career technical education. We need to take it a little bit further and just close that gap between the jobs that are available in our community right now and the people that are out there looking for jobs. How do we get them skilled and trained to take those jobs? Now, unemployment has dropped since the Republicans have taken majority in 2011 from double digits down to, I believe it's around 4.5% right now. In this area, it's higher because we haven't figured out how to close that gap between the jobs that are available and people that might work. The other side of that, like I said, there's a lot of fraud and abuse in our welfare system. Some people don't want to work. We have to be able to get into those people, and if a family makes more on public assistance than they do going to work for 10 or 12 hours an hour job, that's a problem. We should be able to close that gap for them, so if they take that job, they're not losing income. Let's provide that gap for them. Let's get them on their feet. Let's get them working. Most people in our community, they want a job if they're unemployed right now. I truly believe that. On the flip side of that, there are also people that take advantage of the system. So let's identify that. Let's get to work.
Dr. Thompson, would you like to take a question or two? Clare and Gladwin counties have some of the highest poverty rates in the entire state of Michigan. What specific actions would you like to see introduced to reduce poverty and some of the social problems that often arise?
Well, I think that if you have two adults working in a family and they can't pay for their basic needs as a family, I'm not talking about vacations to Disney World or anything, I mean food, medicine, and housing. We need to have a serious look at our minimum wage again, all right? We need to pay people so that they have money in their pockets. That's what buys goods, all right? Now, jobs. Jason touched on the issue of technical education. I suspended my campaign for a week or two to help get the millage for the CTE promoted. And I was a very strong proponent of that. In my high school, Gobles High School down by Kalamazoo, probably half to two-thirds of my classmates were at the skill center, they called it, the vocational education program. Not everybody needs to go to college or wants to go to college. I chose that path. My friends that went and became master welders and master electricians own their own businesses. And unfortunately, I'm still paying back student loans and dealing with that, and they're comfortably retired on a pension from their unions. People that are tradesmen tend to stay in their hometown because everybody needs their toilet fixed. They can marry, they can buy houses, they can pay taxes, they can send their kids to school. That's what we need. We need opportunities outside of the traditional, let's send everybody to college mode. So that's how I would promote that, try and get people getting jobs, and I like the idea of a decent minimum wage. And again, further questions? You can ask me more.
Michigan has some of the highest auto insurance rates in the country. What can be done to alleviate this burden?
Stop the shady dealings that are going on in Lansing under our current Republican regime. No-fault insurance. There's a great article on my website, roberttownsendfor97.com, on no-fault insurance. It's a very complicated issue. The vast majority, the simple answer is this: we have the very best no-fault insurance in the country right now. There's unlimited catastrophic injury coverage, which is great. We pay a little bit more for it. We pay about $175 a year for that unlimited catastrophic coverage. What we are also paying for is a little bit of economic and accounting trickery done by insurance companies. Y'all familiar with the idea of an income to debt ratio when you go and apply for a loan? Insurance companies do the same. Premiums versus what they pay out. On the no-fault insurance, it caps out at $550,000. Anything over that goes out of this catastrophic injury fund that has $20 billion of unaudited money in it, run by the insurance companies. Rather than pay that extra money, if you have a catastrophic injury, directly to the patient that's injured, they pay it to the insurance company, and then the insurance company pays it out. That increases their income to debt ratio, and they have to pay insurance on that. So the premiums go up. Where do they get those premiums from? You guys, all of you. That's their profits that you're paying for, and they did it deliberately to try and squeeze a little extra money out of it. By simply changing the way it's accounted, where you pay that extra money directly out of the catastrophic fund, you lower your insurance rates. The other thing that we can do is we can sit down and cap some of the costs associated with catastrophic injuries. There's a usual and customary fee for an office visit for a surgery. Under the catastrophic, they can get paid whatever they charge, which sometimes is 3 or 4 times as much as the Medicaid usual and customary rate. I actually took that whole time. You know, the Supreme Court once stopped somebody in the middle of is. They got the I out, weren't allowed to say the S.
Jason, would you like the question repeated?
So one of the things I'd like to share with you guys about car insurance and auto no-fault. No-fault reform has been around since no-fault came out. People were there wanting to change it because obviously it impacts our checkbooks the most, and it's outrageous. Now the coverage is great, but you and I and a normal consumer might look at that and say, I don't have a choice whether I want no-fault or not, or unlimited medical benefits. It's mandated. That's what you have to have. So what I think we need to do is, and I don't want to throw a bunch of good ideas out there like good idea fairies, but a lot of the reform that's there's good ideas. They can work. They can reduce our costs. What I want to do as your legislator is look at that from both sides and say, okay, if I'm going to give up coverage, how much am I going to save? I'm not going to give up unlimited medical benefits if I drop 5% or 10% of my premium. I want a significant reduction as a consumer if I'm going to give that up. So I want to make sure that I'm fighting for you and your checkbooks and my checkbook, to be honest with you too. But let's get those premiums down, but for the right reasons, and make sure that we're comparable.
Currently in the state of Michigan, there are 6 prisons that are sitting empty. One of them is located fairly close to Platte County. Along with that prison, what would you do with those empty prisons? And if you expand on that a little bit, talk also about empty storefronts and empty manufacturing buildings in the counties that you would represent.
Okay, so that's a good question. So right now I work as a regional coordinator for the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. So I dabble in veteran benefits and that kind of thing in my day job. And what I want to say is that the VA is a federal beast that it's tough to crack, right? But an empty prison would make a good spot for a VA clinic. So right now in our community, people got to drive to Saginaw, they got to drive down to Ann Arbor, they got to drive hours away for these veterans to get their care. Here's an empty facility that would make a prime location for clinics, with jail cells that operate as physicians' rooms. It could be a great idea. Again, they're idea fairies. I don't know if that would work. I would love to see that happen, but yeah, I've actually worked as a correctional officer for quite some time, so we could definitely make some adjustments and changes to make that appear as a hospital. But I think it's something that definitely we would visit if I was your legislator. And as far as storefronts go, downtown development authorities, I want to partner with you guys. I want to get that feedback from you. I want to make sure that we're making the right decisions for our communities that you guys see. I'm not going to see it in Lansing. I might see it in my hometown. I might see it as I drive through, but you guys are the ones that are on the front lines. I want to take that information from you, and let's get some things done. I can't do this alone. I can't be the expert in all these different towns and cities, but that's why I want to build partnerships with you all to make this thing happen. Thank you.
Councilman, would you like to repeat the question?
No, I got that one. Criminal justice reform is one of my big points. What do we do with closed prisons? Mothball. I'm really glad to see that there are not prisoners anymore. We incarcerate more people in Michigan than any other state. All right. As far as storefronts, I'll add one thing. I'm a doctor. I don't want to see somebody in a jail cell. I don't think it's a very good and conducive environment to see a patient. I think it sends the wrong message. Storefronts. The key to a good, strong Michigan economy and new businesses is giving them customers that can buy their goods. And in order to do that, you need to have people that have some money in their pockets that they can actually go out and buy things. I want customers that can come to my office. I don't want to give Ford Motor Company a tax break. I'd rather have customers that get into my office. Now, oh God, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Give me a moment. Nah, that's it. All right. Markets change. How many people here own a typewriter? Okay, well, 3 of you. If I run a typewriter repair business, how much business am I going to have because there are no typewriters out there anymore? But with minor training and retooling, I can have a computer repair shop. How many people have a computer? Know your market. Promote your market. All right? Respond to your market. We have auto plants that are closed right now. Where are those wind turbines down in Alma built? I think Germany. How come they're not being built in Flint, where we have the buildings to build them and the skilled workforce that's sitting on their butts right now, unemployed? These are the ways that I would address the Michigan economy. So, that's about all I have to say on it, and that's all I have to say on that. Go ahead.
Each of you will now have an opportunity for a closing statement of 2 minutes.
All right. The buzzword this campaign is, I'm an independent, I'm a fresh voice in Lansing. There are people that say that, and then there are people that do that. I'm a doer. I don't accept special interest money. I don't change my opinions to get an endorsement from a special interest. I actually stand up and believe in something. I research it. I think tonight you can tell who has canned responses and who actually has the knowledge base and has studied to be able to respond on their feet to problems. And that, my friends, is the sign of a good legislator. Patients don't come in saying, I've got breast cancer on their forehead. They come in with a complaint. I listen to your complaints. It's then my job to sit down and analyze those things and come up with a reasonable decision. If you read my articles on my website, you will see well-researched positions. I don't go with the flow. Oh, Common Core sucks. Let's get rid of it. Obamacare sucks. Let's get rid of it. What's the alternative? What alternative are you offering? There is none. Why not look at the actual problem? Is Common Core bad? Or are people pissed off because the government made them do it and they're not funding the teachers to give them the supplies they need to teach it? Why are you giving a teacher a 300-page Common Core book 3 days before school starts and say that's going to be your lesson plan for the next years? Teachers aren't dumb. Give them a little time to understand what's going on. I got a great story. Ask me about my door knocking when I got out of here. I had a lady that said, do you remember me? I met you in front of my Cellies 3 years ago. She rolled her car in the middle of an ice storm. I was the one that pulled her out of the car and got her in the ambulance. I stopped. If you want a legislator that'll stop at the scene of an accident, I'm your man.
Okay, well, I have to tell you a little bit of secret before I get going. I've been married for 13 years. My 3-year-old daughter hid my wedding ring. She likes to play hide and go seek. I can't find my wedding ring. So this whole time I felt naked up here. Just, so I'm going to keep it real simple and sweet. I want your vote on November 8th. I hope that I've earned your support. I'm still continuing to hit doors. I'm still getting out to meet a lot of you. I hope to sit down and talk with you at your house or at your business. And I really hope that you vote for me on